way, the experience of higher taste, higher ecstasy, encourages us to go further. Bhakti parish anubhavo viraktir anyatra chaisha trika eka kala prapadyamanasya tatashnatashyus tushti pushti kshudupayo nughasam. Śrīmad Bhagavatam 11:2-42. Quote, devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things, these three occur simultaneously for one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the same way that pleasure, nourishment, and relief from hunger come simultaneously and increasingly with each bite for a person engaged in eating. And there's a footnote here. In this famous verse of Śrīmad Bhagavatam, Sri Kavi, the leader of the Nava Yogendras, the 9 Yogendra saints, instructs Maharaj Nimi in the glories of devotional service. This history is being recounted by Dev Rishi Narad to Vasudeva, the father of Lord Krishna. Back to the text. Viraktir means abnegation, our devaluation of something, and to leave it behind. And paresh anubhavo means that in front of us there is something of higher value, and the conception of a higher gain through that. In other words, what we leave behind us is of a lesser value, and what we gain, that is more valuable. Bhakti paresh anubhavo means progress and some experience of gain, to lose the present stale position and to gain what is better, new and encouraging, and to accept that. Progress means elimination and acceptance of the higher and elimination of the lower. And we ourselves will stand as witness and guarantee of that. Hridayena abhainu gyato, our heart's approval is there to give us guarantee, go further. Existence fulfilled. The devotee asks, so many of us aspiring Vaishnavas, devotees, have started on the path, the long journey back towards Krishna, but somehow we are checked in our progress. So how do we continue in this journey? Srila Śrīdhar Maharaj. Everyone is trying to get more happiness, pleasure, but many are failing. Then what should we do? Should we not try to get pleasure? All are pleasure hunting. Every point of existence, including trees, creepers, animals, men, women, everything in this world, all are searching for happiness. But we see that apparently many are failing. Then should we stop this search? Can we even do so? We cannot. The urge to get greater happiness is a constant thing. We cannot leave it. It is even in the stone and in the fossil, but there it is covered. The very nature of existence itself is to search for pleasure, shuk, and this cannot be eliminated. All and any existence cannot be devoid of this tendency of searching for pleasure, for self-satisfaction. It is inherent, the most universal thing. As the very substance is existing, so is its tendency to get happiness in the way of freedom, knowledge, love. In any way, the tendency to progress in this direction is its inherent quality. It cannot be avoided. Even what one won't do by his voluntary will, he will be forced to do, to travel in that direction. Svabhava jena konteya, nibada svena karmana, katum netchasi janmohat, karishyasi avasho pitat. Srimad Bhagavad Gita 18:60. O Konteya, being bound by the duty born of your nature, that very action which out of delusion you are now avoiding will be inevitably executed by you. Material nature will force one to select that course born of his nature and to always go forward. Prakriti sthani karshati. Srimad Bhagavad Gita 15:7. The environment will force every atom to move ahead, to progress. As a footnote, it is the inherent law of nature that everything, under the influence of time, kala, even if it may appear inert, like stone or wood, is actually constantly moving and changing, as has been shown by modern atomic physics. What appears to be a solid table today, in 1,000 or 1,000,000 years' time, will be a pile of dust, and then recycled into yet another form. In the material world, the effect of this constant change must be deterioration. But Srila Śrīdhar Mahārāj is here using the word progress simply to mean the process of constant evolution, development. In the case of the individual person, though the natural tendency of the soul is always to progress in a positive direction towards the light, towards God, the effects of the lower modes of material nature are such that, as Srila Śrīdhar Mahārāj elsewhere points out, because of the minute free will of the conditioned soul, sometimes progress can also be in a wrong direction. In Bhagavad Gita chapter 16, Lord Krishna gives a vivid description of the nature and effects of this. Back to the text. Temporarily we may think, I won't do that, but that cannot be. It is not the real nature of things. So nature will not allow you to stop idle. Sometimes, however, while in this process, in this progression, to take a rest is necessary, so it may be seen that at that time the negative aspect may come and say, now take rest. But that rest is also part of the progress. The Mahabhagavat devotee is always engaged in the service of Krishna, so when he is sleeping, that is also for the service of the Lord. He is taking rest so that with more energy he can serve. His sleep is also counted in the service. Necessities gain. The devotee asks, when a devotee attempts to preach in the Western countries or in any dangerous situation, does he or she get more protection from Mahaprabhu? Srila Śrīdhar Mahārāj. Of course, and that will be according to their sincerity, their need, and their purity of purpose, that they are preaching for Mahaprabhu and not for their own name and fame or any other acquisition. And there is preaching of different kinds, of different phases. There's preaching in the primary stage, and there the preachers may be many, but there's also preaching in higher stages, just as there are many primary schools, but higher education colleges are fewer. On the footnote. Regarding the soul's progress towards the infinite horizon of God, we may also note here the difference between what may be called states and stages in the spiritual life. These are known to the spiritual traditions and have more recently been recognized and analyzed by modern transpersonal psychology. The distinction between states and stages is important because it can explain to some extent the apparent discrepancy sometimes found between teaching and behavior in regards to spiritual mentors, the subject of not a little controversy. Spiritual states may be experienced by a person at any stage of spiritual growth, from childhood onwards, but they are temporary peak experiences, which, while they may be subjectively profound, even life-changing, are distinct from stages which are relatively permanent, stable plateaus of growth, which the soul progressively attains on its journey, each stage including but transcending the previous one. Ideally, states and stages should develop in sync in a balanced individual. Then back to the text. The devotee asks, the devotee asks, if a devotee begins his journey to Krishna, but he stops for some reason, is that due to his past karma, or is it due to offences committed while performing devotional service? Srila Śrīdhar Maharaj, it may be. So here I've put a footnote, because presumably it may be due to either or both of the reasons mentioned by the questioner. That is, due to his past karma or due to offences. Back to the text. However, it is difficult to have the proper conception about what may be the cause of that hindrance, that bad karma, because where the intensity of hankering for Krishna is great, always in the retinue of that, the impression will come in the devotee that I have bad karma, bad luck. It is there in the highest position also. There devotees will think, I have bad luck. Radharani herself says, it is my durdaiva vilas. It is only the fruit of my bad karma that I am not getting union with Krishna, that he has left me. Krishna is not to be blamed. He is full in all attributes. He is all right. But something is responsible for this separation. What is that? It is my bad luck. So this feeling is always there in the devotee, and it manifests in different ways, even to the highest level. But that feeling of separation from the Lord is also another type of union with him, union in separation. By feeling in want, feeling such urgent necessity, it is a kind of gain. Earnest necessity for a thing which is not easily attained, that is a gain. And the devotee says, but sometimes we see that a devotee loses the desire to attain Krishna. And Srila Śrīdhar Maharaj replies, that is dangerous. Hunger is a sign of good health, and not to have hunger, it is a sign of bad health. Chapter 11. The slightest touch. A peculiar position. Srila Śrīdhar Maharaj, the Lord is everywhere, but we need to have the real eye to see him. He is everywhere, there is no place where he is not present. Yet he is nowhere. He says, I am everywhere, at the same time I am nowhere. Everything is in me. Nothing is in me, Arjun. Try to understand my peculiar position, who I am. Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat abhyakta murtina matstani sarva bhutani na chaham tish avashtita. Śrīmād Bhagavad Gita 9:4. This entire universe is pervaded by me in my unmanifest form, and all beings are situated in me, yet I am not in them. Nachamatstani bhutani pasya me jogam aishvaram bhuta brinnacha bhutosto mamatma bhuta bhavana. Śrīmād Bhagavad Gita 9:5. Again, they are not in me. Behold my supreme mystical power of inconceivable oneness and difference, atinta bheda bhed. I am the mainstay and origin of all beings, but I am not in them. Just as in the case of the material elements, the ether is present everywhere, and everything is in it. But still, the other elements are not ether, and ether is not them. It is something like that. Krishna says, Jatta mahanti bhutani Bhutesu cha vacheshanu pravishtan apravishtani tattateshu nateshaham. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.9.35. O Brahma, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos and at the same time do not enter into the cosmos. Similarly, I myself also exist within everything created, and at the same time I am outside of everything. This is simultaneous oneness and difference, or distinction and non-distinction. Mahaprabhu named it Achinta Bheda Bhed. Inconceivably, there is something common and something different between one thing and another. This is the general characteristic of everything. One step below. The direct connection with the Lord, that is not possible for us at present. So our Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, told us, think that you are one step lower. Don't try to have direct connection with him. Your Guru, he is there in direct connection with him, and you are just below, on the step below, and from there you are trying to carry out his order. That advice was a great help to me. It is a peaceful position because if directly from the front, you will always be searching, very keenly searching for the Lord but not finding him, you will be unsatisfied. Oh, it is not possible to find him. And that is very troublesome. But rather from behind, from the second step, that is peaceful, to go on searching according to your Guru's order, thinking that I am not in direct connection with the Lord, but my Guru is in direct connection with him, and according to his advice, I am going on with service, with faith that the Lord is there. That is a peaceful attitude and a safe position, and it is also recommended by both Shastra, scriptures, and sadhu, saints. So take that position. Don't try to stand in direct connection with the Lord, but a little indirect. Indestructible connection. Kunti Devi wanted unfavourable circumstances materially. She considered that as favourable for her relationship with the Lord, for Divya Darshan, for his real connection. Generally, our calculation may be for favourable circumstances, but she invited danger in life, for when we are helpless, disappointed, under pressure from every direction, naturally our search for a solution will go towards the Lord. Our self-forgetfulness, our surrender will be increased. So such adverse circumstances may be favourable for us in our spiritual life. In any case, once coming in connection with Krishna, no destruction can come to a person. Na vinashiti. The footnote. Na vinashiti, no destruction. This is from the verse in Bhagavad Gita 6.40. Sri Bhagavan Uvach, Pādanaveha namutra, vinashas tasya vidyate, nohi kalanakrit kaschit durgating tata gacchati. Srila Śrīdhar Maharaj often quoted the second line, Nahi kalanakrit kaschit durgating tata gacchati, as evidence of Lord Krishna's mercy on the sincerely aspiring soul, that they will never meet destruction. The full translation of this verse appears in his rendition of Bhagavad Gita, Hidden Treasure of the Sweet Absolute, as follows, quote, the Supreme Lord said, O Arjun, son of Kunti, there is no loss for the unsuccessful yoga practitioner, as he is not denied the happiness of the heavenly plane in this world, nor is he denied the chance of the fortune to see the supersoul in the transcendental realm. This is so, O dear one, because a person who performs virtuous actions never suffers an ill fate. Unquote. Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swāmī Prabhupada renders this verse concisely in his Bhagavad Gita as it is. The Blessed Lord said, "Son of Prita, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil." And there's a note here. Srila Prabhupada dedicates Bhagavad Gita as it is to Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan, who was a Shiksha disciple of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Both of these acharyas made translations with commentary of Sri Gita, entitled respectively Sri Gita Bhushan and Sarata Vashani Tika, with which Srila Prabhupada was certainly familiar. Srila Chakravarti Thakur's own translation of this verse renders into English, "O son of Prita, he does not meet destruction in this life or the next. One who has done the auspicious work of yoga does not meet an unfortunate end, a destination of suffering, O dear one." Back to the text. Any connection, a slightest connection with him, tatta svalpa sambandh, that will save one, definitely, because such connection is invulnerable to the extreme. Nothing can oppose, crush or destroy it. It is of such quality. Even a connection with Vaikuntha, or even with Brahma or Paramatma, that also cannot be destroyed. On the footnote here, the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Vedanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yad jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdite. Srimad Bhagavatam 1-11. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma or Bhagavan. God is realized in three phases: as all-pervading Brahman by the Jnanis, as all-permeating Paramatma, Super-Soul, by the Yogis, and as Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by the devotees. Back to the text. The Absolute is such, none can stand fighting against him. Ultimately, he will conquer everything. All others will have to retire. They cannot stand in competition with him. And the note says, all other propositions about the purpose of life, and even all other existing conceptions of religion and of God, will have no other option but retire before the all-attractive charm and beauty of Krishna and Krishna consciousness. And back to the text, Guru Maharaj quoting the verse, Manghi pata vyapashritya jipisyu papa jonaya striya vaishastata shudrash tepi janti parangatim. Bhagavad Gita 9:32. O son of Prita, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, merchants or labourers, attain the supreme destination. If any mal thing has a connection with him, that also is delivered and goes to him. Those without such connection will be finished through reaction, but in his connection there is no reaction. And the note says, they will be vanquished, that is, those who have no connection with him will have to go down on the karma chakra, the wheel of karma, by having to suffer the fruits of their own action. And back to the text. Don't deceive yourself. What does it mean to see Krishna? There was a man who lived on the banks of the Ganges here in Navadvip about 40 years ago. And the note says that is 1945 or so, 4 years after Srila Śrīdhar Mahārāj came to live in Kaulurganj, Navadvip Dham, the holy place of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And back to the text. One day this man approached me and said, "I have seen Krishna." I told him, "To do so is not such a cheap thing. Don't say such to me. Go to some other person." No, I've seen him. And not only have I seen him, but I've shown him to many others here. He went on with this kind of mad talk. I told him, "We have made some study. We've got some understanding about what is Krishna and how to see him. What are the signs or symptoms of that, and all such things. So do not believe that like any ordinary person I shall follow you to see Krishna. But it is true. I showed him to so many." I told him, "Yes, you might have seen some monkeys. Krishna is not so cheap. It is not that he will just come so easily to your physical eyes. I spoke to him in this way." And the footnote says, Srila Śrīdhar Mahārāj is saying, not without irony, yes, you might have seen perhaps some monkeys playing in the distance and deluded yourself that you'd seen the pastimes of Krishna. And back to the text. So then that gentleman went away. When he came again with the same story, I told him, "Why are you deceiving yourself? Do you know who is Krishna and who can see him? And after seeing him, what will be the condition of that person? Do you have any knowledge, some general knowledge about this? You yourself know how you are troubled by lust, anger, greed, and so many such things which are within you. And you say you are a Brahmin's son, and yet with that fortunate human birth you are wasting it. You are deceiving others and yourself. Don't deceive yourself." This created some impression in him, and after thinking about it for some days, he left everything. He took off his female dress and cut off his long hair, and he came back. "Yes, what you have said, it is true. I am still a slave of my senses. How can I get Krishna so easily?" There's a footnote. Westerners and or newcomers to the path of Krishna Bhakti, devotion to Krishna, might be shocked to hear of such an extreme aberration of the path of devotional service. Males adopting female dress, hair, ornaments, and all such particulars, and imagining themselves thus as gopis, female milkmaids in love with Krishna. But such groups have existed, and particularly since the time of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, claiming to be true followers of his teachings. They are, however, understood as sahajiyas or imitationists by the actual disciples of Lord Chaitanya, and their many moral misconducts, abhorrent to even law-abiding secular folk, had until the revival of Chaitanya Bhakti by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, 1838 to 1914, tarnished the reputation of Gaudiya Vaishnavism in society. Their misunderstanding is based on the mixing of spiritual conception with the mundane, taking Krishna prema, love of Krishna, to be the same as kam, material lust, and acting in that way. This was totally repudiated by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his writings, and then vigorously opposed and philosophically defeated by his illustrious son and disciple, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, 1874 to 1936, the founder of Sri Gaudiya Math. Srila Śrīdhar Mahārāj also is renowned for his strict adherence to the true line of Sri Chaitanya Dev and rejection of all such sahajiya notions in theory and practice. There are 13 such sects as delineated by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Aul, Bol, Saki Beki, etc. One such sect, the Kata Bhaja, is said to have had up to 5 million followers in the early 1900s. Back to the text. Then that man requested me for Diksha, initiation. But one of my godbrothers was here at that time, and he gave caution, don't do so. He is a hypocrite. Today he has come to you, tomorrow or another day he will run to some other person, some other clan. Don't believe him. So I avoided that. Krishna is not so easy to be seen or to be attained, to be caught within the fist. He is everywhere and he's nowhere. Everything is in him and nothing is in him at the same time. We must always be conscious of this. So the search for Krishna, it is with this background. No demand. The higher devotees feel that even desiring to seek the Lord is also some kind of enjoyment. They say, no, we won't disturb his sweet will. Whenever he likes, he may call for us. Then we shall get the chance to see him, otherwise not. We want Krishna, but not to order him, "Oh Krishna, come and stand before us. We want to see you for our satisfaction." This demand is a kind of imposition by our exploiting nature. The devotees do not want that for the satisfaction of their eye or their inner hankering, the Lord has to come and show himself. This is not the conception of the higher devotees. They do not allow these thoughts to enter. Rather, they think, whenever Krishna feels the necessity, he will call for me. Then I shall have the chance of seeing him. They never desire Krishna to serve them, supply them, or give them darshan of himself. To impose our whim on the Lord is not service proper. Whatever Krishna likes, he may do. We shall consider ourselves fortunate if we are given a chance to supply whatever is necessary for his service. We are to place ourselves fully at the disposal of that supreme autocrat who is to command us, to order us, and never to carry out any order from us. But it is the Lord's nature that he is eager to supply everything for his devotees. Ananyas chintayanto mam, jejana paryupashate, tesham nitta bijuktanam, yogakshemam vahamyaham. Srimad Bhagavad Gita 9:22. I bear the responsibility of acquiring and protecting the necessities of my fully dependent devotees, who are always absorbed in thoughts of me, and who worship me in every way. Still, devotees of higher realization do not prefer Krishna to supply them with anything or serve them in any way. Their ananya bhakti, their purest devotion, is of this quality. They sincerely feel, he is our Lord, through faith. We don't want to see him in order to satisfy our lower faculties that he does indeed exist. We have no capacity to see him. A lower kind of faith means trying to become the subject and making him the object. A higher kind of faith, a more intense faith, proves that he is the original subjective cause of everything. A place in the harmony. How is one to maintain his position within the current of Krishna consciousness? That we must know. That current is always flowing, and to maintain one's position within it requires some force, some energy. The attempt to maintain oneself may apparently seem to be something passive or static. It may appear that in relation to the infinite, no progress is progress. But in fact, it requires effort. It is dynamic. And in the footnote it says, apparently no progress is progress. To explain what does this mean? By analogy, it is something like a person who, when in the current of a river, by various movements of their limbs, though such movements are apparently slight, is able to stay afloat and can avoid being drawn to either bank and deposited thereupon. Indeed, they can keep themselves in a forward motion and direction. It may appear to the casual observer that the floater is not really doing anything, but in fact they are engaged in a very definite, though subtle movement. In the very beginning of devotional practicing life, acting for Krishna, though it is the constitutional position of the soul, sometimes feels to the practitioner very difficult, because for lifetimes the conditioned soul has been acting for his self-interest, exploitation. This is like the difficulty of cranking an engine to get it started. When it is running, then the business is to maintain the motion, and that is by certain actions that do not outwardly appear very dynamic, applying a little oil here and there, adjusting certain parts, etc. But those actions are very significant. They protect the machine from breaking down. In devotional terms, these maintenance activities are the regular activities of sadhana bhakti, devotional practicing life, but most particularly a certain vigilance, one has to protect the newly sprouted, delicate plant of devotion, bhakti lata, from various weeds which will choke it or take energy meant to nourish it for their own interest. Weeds, for example, would be over-collecting money or material assets under the guise of spiritual service, too much interest in worldly affairs, associating with materialists or impersonalists, etc. A fuller delineation of this may be found in Srila Rupa Goswami's text, Upadeshamrita, Nectar of Instruction, and also Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. All in all, the activities of a devotee, one engaged in bhakti yoga, may not appear very great or significant to the mundane vision, as compared, for example, to those of the Siddha yogi, who performs many penances, austerities, and even mystic feats, which appear impressive to people in general. But because the aim of the devotee is, through Guru and Vaishnava, to please the Lord, and the satisfaction of the Lord is the real purpose of life, their activities are in reality much the greater. And back to the text. So to maintain one's position in unfavourable circumstances is not very easy, but to feel separation from the Lord, to feel pain in the striving for harmony, that I'm not having any place in the sweet harmony of relations with Him, that is more intense than to feel I've got Him. It is a very peculiar thing. The greatest necessity for Him, that necessity is He Himself. In this sense, to approach Him, to come to Him, is to get Him. And in the footnote, feelings of separation from the Lord can in fact be more powerful than feeling His presence. As it is said, absence makes the heart grow fonder. Separation from the Lord, though apparently extremely painful, produces in the soul a deeper and more intense ecstasy of union. This kind of worship of Krishna in separation was both taught and demonstrated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the highest and most desirable attainment in Krishna consciousness. To cultivate Krishna consciousness in the mood of separation, even from the beginning stages of spiritual practice, is also the safe way to avoid the path of imitationism, prakrita sahajiavad, as the previous story of the monkey seer illustrates. The principle that the intense desire for the Lord is itself a manifestation of Him has been expressed by savants of different theistic faith traditions. St. Gregory of Nyssa wrote, "To find God is to seek Him unceasingly. Here indeed, to seek is not one thing and to find another." And St. Catherine of Siena, 1347 to 1380, wrote in her dialogues, speaking to the Lord, "You are a mystery as deep as the sea. The more I search, the more I find, and the more I find, the more I search for you. But I can never be satisfied. What I receive will ever leave me desiring more. When you fill my soul, I have an even greater hunger, and I grow more famished for your light." And back to the text. Śrīdhar Maharaj says, "I once delivered a lecture at a meeting in Madras, Chennai, where some scholars of the Madhva school had made arrangement to honour the birthday of Madhvacharya." And in the footnote, it's telling Srila Madhva Acharya, 1238 to 1317, great Vaishnava, devotee of Krishna. He is a renowned Acharya representing the lineage originating from Lord Brahma, one of the four recognized Vaishnava Sampradayas, lineages. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, showing the example of an ideal devotee, took his Diksha initiation from Sri Ishvar Puri in the Madhva line. Some say he did so because among the Vaishnava lineages, Sri Madhva Acharya, with his Shuddha Dvaita, pure dualism, teaching, most distinctly expressed that aspect of the jiva souls as being different or distinct from the Supreme Lord. Traditionally, Madhva is depicted holding his right hand aloft with forefinger and second finger extended to emphasize this distinction. All Vaishnava Sampradayas accept service to the Lord as the verity and therefore oppose the idea of the soul and the Lord's absolute oneness, Keval Advaitavad, the monism propounded by Sri Shankar Acharya, 788 to 820 AD. Madhva fought with and defeated many Shankarite scholars. His main mutt or monastery is in Udupi, Karnataka, South India, and the worship of Krishna he propounded was that of Bal Krishna, Krishna as a young child, worship in the mood of Vatsalya or parental affection. The followers in the Madhva line are known as Tattvavadis. Since Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the lineage has been known as the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Gaudiya from Gaudadesh or Bengal, where Mahaprabhu appeared. With the advent of Sri Chaitanya Dev, the worship of Radha Krishna in the mood of conjugal love, Madhurya Rasa, manifested, and there are some other developments which Mahaprabhu brought to the lineage. Madhvacharya was a staunch and indomitable Vaishnava, unwavering in his principles, which were like lines carved on stone. He gave a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, but omitted chapters 13 and 14 of Canto 10, in which the Brahma Vimohan Leela, the bewilderment of Lord Brahma by Krishna in Vrindavan, is described. That is, how the founding father and original guru of the lineage, Lord Brahma, was so easily put into illusion by Krishna. Srila Madhva Acharya was also possessed of great physical strength. He is said to be an incarnation of Sri Vayu, the wind god. And back to the text. Srila Guru Maharaj is talking about the lecture he delivered at the meeting in Chennai on the birthday of Madhvacharya. They made me the president at the meeting, and Nagaraj Sharma, a professor of the Madhva school, was to deliver lectures there. At the beginning of the meeting, I gave some introductory talk, and there I mentioned about Mahaprabhu's teaching, Trinad api sunichena, taror eva sahishnuna, amanina manadena, kirtaniya sadahari, Shikshastakam 3. One who is humbler than a blade of grass, more forbearing than a tree, who gives due honour to others without desiring it for himself, is qualified to always chant the holy name of Krishna. Then, when Professor Sharma gave his lecture, I traced there a slight touch, a remark that to think one's own self to be meaner than a blade of grass, What is the achievement there? To think oneself to be very low, very mean, how can that be the means to attain the higher things? I caught in his speech a slight remark of this kind. Afterwards, at the conclusion of the meeting, again I got the chance to speak, and I mentioned, who can see himself as small, as mean, is in the relativity of the big. The jiva soul can only think of himself as lowest of the lowest when he is having a real conception of the infinite. As much as he can have some conception of the infinite, he cannot but think himself, in comparison, as meanest of the mean. Genuine realization about the Lord is measured by this standard. What and how much can the soul see? Who sees himself as big will see other things as small, but one who is really living in relation with the infinite cannot but feel himself as smallest of the small, meanest of the mean. That is the real criterion of our improvement on our journey towards consciousness of the infinite, towards Him.